Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Steny Hoyer. I'm the leader of the Democratic Party in the House of Representatives, and I'm joined, as you know, by Kevin McCarthy, who is the leader of the Republicans in the House of Representatives. I might say, as all of you know, we had an election in 2018, and the majority changed. But Kevin and I are here as partners on behalf of and in support of Israel. This is the largest delegation that has ever visited Israel together. There are 41 Democrats and 31 Republicans, 72 members of Congress, united in strong and unwavering support for the state of Israel, its success, its sovereignty, and its security. This is my 16th visit to Israel. I made my first visit to Israel in 1976. I've been here in every decade since and have led 9 of these visits to Israel since '03. And Mr. McCarthy and I have been the partners in 3 of these trips. And it is, I think, important to understand that we stand here together as American members of Congress, as American citizens, and as individuals committed, as I said, to Israel's security and safety. We thank the American-Israeli Education Foundation for giving us this opportunity to visit. Mr. McCarthy and I believe it's absolutely critical for members to have the opportunity to come here, be on the ground, see firsthand not only the security situation, and we have visited the northern border, we visited Golan, we're going to be visiting Gaza, the southern part of Israel, close to Gaza, and discussing the threats that exist there. But they will, in the coming week, and we have in this past week, had the opportunity of meeting with a number of, not only of the leadership. We met with Mr. Netanyahu, we met with Mr. Gantz, we met with a number of citizens who are involved in NGOs doing extraordinary work, not only here in Africa and other parts of the world on behalf of people's health, welfare, and security. In addition, we met with a number of people who have been involved in the economy of Israel. Mr. Netanyahu in particular made very clear that the economy in Israel has been booming, and he was obviously very proud of that. Mr. Gantz made the same point, and others with whom we talked made that point. We also discussed the continuing threat, which is a central concern to the United States and to Israel, that Iran poses, its malign activities and its nuclear ambitions. The United States and Israel are both absolutely committed. Executive Department, Mr. Trump, and the Congress of the United States, Republicans and Democrats, committed to the fact that Iran does not ever become a nuclear power, a nuclear threat to the Middle East, to Israel in particular, and to the United States and the global community. I want to close my brief remarks by saying reminding you that we passed a resolution in opposition to the BDS movement, which is a movement that seeks to undermine, we believe, Israel's security and safety, undermine the two-state solution, which was included in the resolution that we adopted, and undermines the concept that the United States have of support. We believe in free speech, but we also believe that we ought not to be advocating either issues that could be perceived and are anti-Semitic or undermining of Israel's security. That resolution passed with 97.5% of the members voting for it that voted on that resolution. That is a clear indication of the united support, Democratic and Republican support, together on behalf of the state of Israel. I know that every member, we have 32 freshman members in our delegation of the 41. It is their, and for many of them, it is their first visit to Israel. And I believe that as almost everybody who comes to Israel leaves with a conviction of its extraordinary success, the unbelievable commitment of its citizens to its security, survival, and success, and a much better understanding of why Israel deserves our united support. So at this point in time, I'll yield to my friend with whom I work on a regular basis to the extent that we can to make sure that we're united not only on this issue but on other issues so that we can move our own country forward. The leader of the Republican Party in the House of Representatives, Mr. McCarthy from California.
Well, first, thank you very much, and I want to thank my friend. This is not the first time we stand together ever talking about Israel. Many times throughout the year, we will go to meetings together because that's the importance that we want to show. This is an unwavering, undeniable bond of the most important relationship we have in the Middle East. We want to make sure that individuals know that and understand that. I do want to first thank you for spending time with all of us. I want to emphasize that this is more than 15% of the entire U.S. House of Representatives with you right now inside Israel. Many of the individuals who are behind me are freshmen. They know of the bond, but they also want to understand firsthand. The Democrats have gone through that most of this week. Republicans have been here for a couple days, and we will continue on. I want to underscore something that Leader Hoyer said. He's been here many times. This is my 6th trip. But when we both became leader, and it was in reverse order, I congratulate him. I don't want him to keep it. But,
we do have a difference on that issue, who ought to be the majority leader.
Yeah. It's a strong opinion on both sides, but that's okay. We don't know. I went to him, we both sat down and said, there's times that we go to Israel, but we go at separate times. Why don't we speak with one voice, and why don't we have overlapping? So for the last 6 years, this is our 3rd time, the Republicans and Democrats are here at the exact same time together. They're here with one voice as Americans, seeing the same challenges, celebrating the same victories, celebrating the bond that is undeniable for more than 70 years, that can never be broken. And how can we even make it stronger? As the leader talked about, we have the legislation on the floor. We've passed some, and there's others that we'd like to pass as we continue to move forward. We watch that this world is a dangerous place. We also watch that our administration in America has spoken with one voice as well. From recognizing the Golan Heights to moving of the embassy, something that those who ran for president on both sides of the aisle had always promised. But today, this year, we kept our promise in this administration. So as we move forward, a very clear message is that we understand the importance of this relationship. We understand undeniably the bond that has to be maintained. And you have that support here in the House. And I want to thank the members who made this journey. I want to thank them for their time. I want to thank their families to be here too. But to ask the hard questions, to gather the information. And when they go back to the halls of Congress, and they cast those votes, they do it with knowledge. Knowledge firsthand of being there, knowledge of the size and scope of the challenges within the Middle East, and the desire to find peace. That's what we're here today about, and that's what we'll continue to fight for. So let me turn it over to the leader. We'll go into questions.
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to call on David Helpenberger from the New York Times.
McCarthy mentioned asking the hard questions. What can you tell us about the hardest questions that were asked of either Prime Minister Netanyahu or
Well, we clearly on our side asked about the two-state solution. And we asked about the present threats. I don't know if that was the hardest question, but it's the hardest issue that we deal with. We asked about settlements. We asked about the economic status, which was a very, very positive answer from almost everybody that we talked to. But I think the hard questions is, what do we do going forward? And it was not a hard representation that Mr. McCarthy and I have made, and Mr. McCarthy will make, and his members will make as they go forward this week, of strong support. So I think the hard questions were about how we go forward. How we go forward, and as I said, the resolution that we adopted with 97.5% of the people who voted on it voting for it, discussing the two-state solution, how we ensure the security of Israel, and how we confront Iran together.
And then just one follow-up. Congressman Tlaib is going to be coming on a well-publicized visit not too long from now, I think about a week. Is there anything that happened on this trip that you wish you would have been present?
I think a lot of things happen on every one of these trips that I think every member would be benefited by hearing, whatever their position. I think, and I presume Ms. Tlaib and Ms. Omar will hear things or see things. Hopefully we'll talk to as many people as we talk to and get a broad perspective and draw their conclusions. If they do that, I think they will have a better understanding and better support for the interests of both the Israelis and the Palestinian people. Obviously, as you know, Ms. Tlaib is Palestinian, so she has a particular interest in the plight of the Palestinian people, as I think everybody here does. I want to emphasize that. This is not about the welfare of the people, it's about coming to agreement on how those two peoples can go forward and live together in peace and security. Kevin, you want to comment?
We have not met with Prime Minister yet, but I mean, there are broad bases of questions that we're going to ask that are hard. Security is always number one. What's the future? It's also what's happening in the countries around, from Syria and others, and what is Iran up to, and what is the challenge that they are making for the security and safety of the rest of the world. But then also the other questions, the innovation that Israel has. We just had a fantastic dinner last night, Startup Nation, looking at the advancements of all's happening and the inner workings around the world. We'll go to desal today. It's a challenge that we have in California, I'm interested to find. But these are bonds that go beyond just security. They'd only make it stronger for our two nations. And that's why the prosperity continues to look that tomorrow will be better than today. And that's what we continue to hope for.
Michael Wagenheim.
Question, you met recently with Palestinian Authority leadership to square meeting, an American government representative nowadays with Palestinians. What was the tone of that meeting? What was discussed? And what, if anything, vibe did you get from Palestinian leadership that there could be some sort of reconciliation between their government and the American government at this point?
First of all, let me say I met with Mr. Abbas for the first time in 2003 in Gaza. And I bring that up, he was then the Prime Minister, Arafat was still alive. I bring that up because one of his first comments, and we had 28 members, this was a Democratic delegation, and one of the first things he brought up, he said, do you know what my people were doing yesterday? And of course, none of us knew the answer that he was either looking for or was correct. He said, my people were out on the beach with their families, enjoying themselves. And he said, that is what I wish for them, and that is what I hope we can achieve. As you know, not too long thereafter, he resigned as Prime Minister because Mr. Arafat would not agree with his request, that is Abbas's request, to unify security apparatus in the Palestinian Authority, which he thought was critically important. I've met with him a number of times in Ramallah and in the United States since. Frankly, I did not really hear anything new. He indicated he was prepared to sit down and negotiate without preconditions, and then he referenced a number of preconditions. So it was not anything new from my perspective that I heard from him, or Mr. Arakat, who was also there, and the Prime Minister was there. All of our members were there, but I think it was very important that they had the opportunity to A, go to Ramallah, to hear Mr. Abbas, who of course is in the 14th year of a 5-year term. They've been unable to reach agreement, unable to reach a democratic re-election or election of a leader. So that my view was that we didn't hear much that was new, but it was asserted very strongly.
We look forward to that. We take that trip to Ramallah every Congress when we go through. We have very frank discussions. We do have differences, but we look to find the common ground between them. And we look to find where we can find a solution here. And I know the Israeli government wants to find a solution as well. The people do. And that's places that we can be helpful. We want to be helpful.
Mr. Aaron from the Times of Israel.
I want to connect maybe to congresswomen who are going to come to Israel later on to sheet and slave. My colleagues from Channel 13 last night reported that President Trump actually was unhappy with Israel's decision to let these congresswomen into the country. He preferred that Israel use the anti-BDS law and law banning supporters of boycotts to come into Israel.
Let me take that. I do not know the president being disappointed in them coming. I speak to the president daily. I know the president's love and passion for Israel and their security and for the entire region. He has shown that. If you watch the first trip that the president took, becoming president, going to Saudi Arabia, coming to Israel, and then going to Rome, the Vatican. I think he laid out for what he would like to see the world look like. I think from his support of where he moved the embassy, I think about his actions on Golan Heights. I think the president, speaking with the president, he knows there are people that have a difference of opinion. I think it'd be healthy for anyone that has that opinion, should come just as all these members have, to see. And I feel very secure in this. Anyone that comes with open ears, open eyes, and an open mind will walk away and have an understanding, just as all these members do, that this bond is unbreakable, that there is an importance to a democracy in the Middle East, that makes a difference to the world and to the security. And so I think all should come, and members throughout the year, they do, on a continual basis. And if people come with that open mind and open eyes and open ears, I think you'll find a stronger bond. And when we look at anti-Semitism that has been rising, something that we have not seen since the 1930s around this world, that is unacceptable. When we look at the movement of BDS, a boycott, divestiture, and sanctions. But when we look to the America, or even in the Senate, their very first bill, S1, was anti-BDS. It wasn't a division inside the Senate. Even Schumer, not only the leader on the Democratic side, voted for it, he co-sponsored it. Now in the House, we've taken a resolution, but we continue to work to make sure we pass that legislation as well. And I think more people who come, more people who see the challenges of the Middle East, and they could come from difference of opinion, but have everybody see what we see. And I think that will bring us faster to a common ground and a solution than anything else.
Let me comment on that. First of all, the White House this morning referred to the comment you just made as fake news, and that the president didn't express that opinion. I don't know the truth, but I can tell you that the White House indicated it was fake news. I talked to Mr. Dermer, Israel's ambassador in the United States, and he issued a statement, in my understanding, after discussing this with the government and with the Prime Minister, which indicated that any member of Congress was welcome to come to Israel. And I think that reflected the confidence that Mr. McCarthy has just pointed out, that coming to Israel, seeing the reality of Israel, seeing the security situation in Israel, seeing the extraordinary people who are working so hard to create jobs and a better life for their people and so many people around the world, will leave with a much more positive view. So I think that Israel's confidence, as expressed by Mr. Dermer, in having any member of Congress who wants to come to Israel have the opportunity to come to Israel and have access and see what all of these members either have seen or will see in the coming week, is appropriate.
May I very briefly follow up on this very question? And it's a frank
quick comment. As you know, Ms. Omar succeeded Mr. Ellison. Mr. Ellison is also a Muslim, who is now the Attorney General of Minnesota. I think, and I brought him here the first time he was in the Congress of the United States, and I think that was probably maybe 7 years ago. But in any event, I think he came back with a more positive view, a more informed view, a more balanced view. And I would hope that and think that that will occur. I know both of all three, if Ms. Ocasio-Cortez comes, I think they're all three very bright. And as you know, Ms. Omar apologized for statements that she had made that were perceived as, and in our view were, anti-Semitic, and she apologized for those. So there is, I think, an openness of mind to learn, and that I think will be positive for Israel and for those members. Next question I've got, call on.
Can I finish up?
Oh, excuse me, go ahead.
I hope and I believe that anybody that actually is on the ground and sees the situation is going to walk away with a difference of opinion. Had I wished that they would have joined all of us? Yeah, join the other freshmen as well, and that we see it together. And when we work on these issues as one body, we'd have the same experiences that we're looking through. But I think it's healthy that all members come.
Ariel Kahana. We appreciate your saying that, and of course I think that reflects the broad bipartisan support of that 90, frankly 100% in my opinion. I know that can be discussed.
About that, I would also want to say from our side as Israelis that some of us are today in the Tisha B'Av fast. It wasn't for us to come here this morning, so that's our part. And my question is really, in last years, there are kinds of concerns or questions about will the Democratic Party continue to strongly support Israel as it was in the past. What can you, Mr. Hoyer, tell the Israeli public regarding this question? Because bipartisan, of course, is very important for Israel.
Now, I've been to Israel 16 times, and I've been this time. And I told one of your colleagues in the press, I did an interview, I said, one of the things I have observed in Israel, that there's some very strong differences of opinion. That exists in the United States as well. You ought not to be shocked that there are alternative views. Now, we're very united on Israel. I don't want to go much deeper than that and ask everybody to raise their hand on every issue because we have differences. We are like Israel and you are like us, a very vibrant democracy that welcomes and accepts different points of view. That is what distinguishes our country from other countries who would be authoritarian, repressive regimes. We welcome different views because we believe the vibrancy of that debate makes us a better democracy and empowers us to make better decisions. So one ought not to be surprised that in the United States Congress that represents every region of the country and disparate points of view, that when we have discussions, but when you have an issue that has 97.5% agreement, and let me read you the paragraph. Resolved that the House of Representatives opposes the global boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement targeting Israel, including efforts to target United States companies that are engaged in commercial activities that are legal under U.S. law. And it goes on to support the two-state solution. It goes on to support Israel's security. And as Mr. McCarthy and I have indicated, we are united as a country to ensure that Iran, which remains the biggest threat, and now whether it's a view of perhaps moving forward, not perhaps, saying that they're going to move forward on the creation of a nuclear capability, there is great concern. But the real central reality is there is extraordinary unity on the issues which Israel is very concerned about. The alliance between our two countries, as Mr. McCarthy has said, is an alliance that has been strong and unbending since May of 1948, and it remains such. Thank you.
Let me just say one
Excuse
thing
me.
about, I would never question Leader Hoyer's support for Israel. There's times throughout the year, we meet all the time in regards to this, and many times, every time we can, we act as one. From a concern that you have, I would think you've never had a stronger administration from America in support of Israel, and I think it displays from the actions that have taken by this administration. Each Congress makes up something different. And people are going to have a difference of opinion, and people are going to speak their mind, and people are going to do different things. But when you look at the administration, you've never had a greater support and a greater bond. And you're sitting right here, and we thank you for coming out knowing what today is and spending time with us. But you have the leaders of both parties. You have more than 15% of the entire U.S. House of Representatives from both sides of the aisle that just had a changing of their lives with a bond of even greater spending a week here. And to me, that doesn't happen anywhere else in the world. The only time I've been on a delegation that's a little smaller than this was to honor the 75th anniversary of Normandy. So think of the significance of why we are here and what we are saying to you. We will have our differences, and yes, he and I express those very openly on the floor many times, but we walk away knowing that we are an American together and knowing what the importance of Israel is, not just to us and us to them, but to the world.
Let me just conclude by saying that one can have a perception of who the strongest was. Every administration since Harry S. Truman, every administration have shared the same commitment to Israel's survival and success and sovereignty. Everyone. Some have been very successful in getting to agreements that unfortunately did not ultimately mature into the ends that were sought. That is true of President Carter. That's true of the Oslo Agreement. It's true of some other agreements. It was true of Bill Clinton, which came very close with Ehud Barak. I talked to Shimon Peres some 3 years just before the last visit that I was here, and we talked about Barack Obama. There are different points of view on that. He believed he was an extraordinary supporter of Israel. Donald Trump has been expressed and done things that the Congress had supported and had not been implemented. So that the important takeaway, I think, is from Harry Truman to Donald Trump, the policy of strong and unwavering support for Israel has been the same. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.